State University American Democracy Project, which is a special project for college-age students to learn about our democracy from a non-partisan standpoint. We welcome you. My name is Lynn Thoyer. I'm one of the co-chairs of our League of Women Voters this year for 2014-15. My co-chair, Stephanie Nuttall. Stephanie is in the back. And we will now point out those of us that are hosting and hostessing. And the candidates will be introduced by our moderator this evening, Ruth Charles, League of Women Voters. Our question sorters this evening are Lori Ortega, League of Women Voters, Kay Shaw, she's a dual member, League and AAUW, and Kathy Jarvinan, AAUW. I can also declare I am a dual member AAUW, League of Women Voters. Also in our audience is Jeanette Steiner, League of Women Voters, Sue Rorick, our Voter Services Chair, League of Women Voters, and Barbara Shield from AAUW, and in the hall, Beverly Spandy, League of Women Voters, AAUW, and Susan Cooper, who is a dual again. So, media table is here. Our timekeeper this evening is Mary Morgan. She is with the League of Women Voters. And you will listen to the particulars as our moderator goes through them regarding how we conduct the forum. But there's a few ground rules which we have printed outside if you're interested, and you may have a copy about how we conduct our forums. First thing is, if you have one of these in your pocket, put it on vibrate. Now mine obviously vibrated and it says listen now, but I'm going to choose listen later, so we'll just forget that. It was probably my sister from August, right? Then in addition, this is a live cable television broadcast on HBC Channel 19 and Charter Channel 987. That's a new channel for Charter, just remember that, 987. Anyway, when it's live, we ask that you are respectful, no noise, no clapping, no remarks, no loud noises. However, when Ruth Charles ends at 8 o'clock, we want wild loud clapping because these people will have done their very best for you. Our candidates always do their very best. And so it will start promptly at 7. Any questions from the public?
Encourage them to write questions.
Yes. Next, we want something from you. We encourage you to write questions. Stephanie, Barbara, myself will circulate, Sue, and take questions from you. The candidates do not know the questions. They come from you or members of our organizations. The question sorters have never seen these questions, so tonight. They will do their very best to pick questions that are appropriate, respectful, and get to the education of what we all want to know about these candidates. Remember when you write the questions that we have two types of candidates tonight. Winona County Sheriff candidates and Winona County Auditor Treasurer candidates. You may direct your question to a specific candidate grouping if you wish. Because Ruth would like to be able to say this question is for the sheriff candidates, they would answer, and then this question is for the auditor treasurer or vice versa. We don't know how we're starting, that's up to how they've agreed, but you'll notice that we've seated everyone in this plain good old alphabetical order. Auditor treasurer candidates first, sheriff candidates second, and then thereafter by their name. Other things.
And some questions can be for all of them.
Yeah, and some questions can be for all of them. Again, on behalf of the League and all of our co-sponsors, we're absolutely pleased to have a crowd of this size. We also know that our television viewing audience also appreciates it, and we will be rebroadcasting these forums sometime after September 15th. Our League now has a Facebook page. I can't believe it, we're in the modern era. And therefore, they will be posted on YouTube. So you just click and watch the whole thing all over again. Okay? So it will be at your disposal in about a week. And then Ruth will mention at the end of the broadcast the other forums that we have coming up for Winona County Commissioners and Soil and Water, and the City Council, the Legislature, and the School Board, and then we have to do something. I'm going to talk about that briefly because we have a minute. We've tried something unique. We are one of the few leagues that's never done this in the state. When a candidate runs unopposed, how do you get to know them unless you happen to know them? So we're going to have them come and do statements on television for the first time. But there is no one for them to share a question with because they're running unopposed. So right immediately after they do their statements, then we will have them seated at these tables around the room, and you may go and talk with them. And you can talk to them directly and ask your own questions. And at that one, you're going to have cookies. Any other questions? Okay, we're going to wait out the minute then, and Ruth will give the cue, and the cameraman from KPTC is with us too. Okay. Thank you very much. So it'll be about 2 minutes.
Yeah, okay. Can I put this down?
Yeah. Chris, the reporter from the Daily News said if you were running unopposed, you would get cookies. But you can come. Anybody can come that night. All the candidates are welcome to come back that night too. And talk to the others unopposed and get cookies. We should mention that none of these forums would be possible without the support of our state league of member voters, and we always invite you to become a member. Brochures are involved. Thank you very much.
1 minute. That's fine. Good evening, and welcome to the Winona County Sheriff and Auditor Treasurer General Election candidates. I'm Ruth Charles, your moderator for this event. Our co-sponsors are AAUW, the Women's Resource Center of Winona, and Winona State University American Democracy Project. We are pleased to welcome those of you in our live audience and citizens who may be watching at home. We also want to thank the City of Winona for allowing us to hold this educational forum in the Council chambers. For those of you watching at home, we have a call-in phone number where you can provide us with questions for the panel. The call-in phone number is 457-8280. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, volunteer organization organized at the local, state, and national level to encourage citizens to participate in government. While we as a league do study and take stands on issues, we do not endorse or support political parties, candidates, or tell voters how to answer the referendum questions. This forum is intended to provide voters with information so they can make an educated choice on the ballot. The views expressed in this educational forum are those from the candidates. We do encourage our members as individuals, as we encourage each of you to get involved in your community. Our timekeeper this evening is Mary Borgen. Copies of the forum ground rules have been provided to the candidates, and copies are available this evening for the public. I will review briefly and highlight our ground rules for this forum. The audience is expected to be courteous to the candidates and good listeners. This is a live cable TV broadcast. The audience is asked not to express support or concern during the forum and to hold their applause until the end of the forum. We would like to remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones and pagers. Pictures and videotapes are not authorized by the League of Women Voters are prohibited. This forum will be taped, may not be edited, and must be broadcast in its entirety and in accord with all FCC regulations. The candidates may not use the educational forum video in campaign ads or literature. During the forum, we ask the audience present and our TV listeners to write down their questions and to call them in at 457-8280. The League of Women Voters and co-sponsors will sort the questions for the moderator. The moderator will ask the questions. The League of Women Voters will also determine the questions to be asked, and attempts in good faith will be made to cover all areas of interest expressed by the audience. The candidates will not know the questions in advance. Questions that are hostile, partisan, embarrassing, inappropriate, or of a personal nature will not be asked. Questions on similar topics may be grouped. Those citizens watching at home, again, are reminded to call in your questions at 457-8280. All questions will become the property of the League of Women Voters. Candidates will strictly observe the time limits on responses. Timekeepers will hold up cards to indicate that time is about to expire. Once the stop card is displayed, candidates will stop at the end of the current sentence. Opening statements will be 2 minutes, questions 1 minute, closing statement 1 minute. The candidates with us today are running for Winona County Sheriff, Ron Ganrud and Bill Spitzer. Running for Winona County Auditor Treasurer are Sandra Sukla and Joyce Tolugan. Candidates have allowed me to use their first names. We would like to begin our opening statements, and our first speaker will be Sandra Sukla.
Hello, my name is Sandra Sukla, and I'm the candidate for the office of Winona County Auditor Treasurer. I'd like to take this opportunity to outline my qualifications for this position as they relate to the past, present, and future. I've worked in the fields of accounting and customer service for the past 27 years and hold both a vocational and bachelor's degree in accounting. From my first job at Madison Silo to my last managerial position with Inland Printing Company, I have held progressively responsible leadership roles with the firms I've been employed at. In my present position with the Winona County Finance Department, I work closely with Pat Moga, the Finance Director and current Auditor Treasurer. I work hands-on receiving cash and checks, initiating bank transactions, and compiling the county's financial statements, and I'm very comfortable performing these duties. As for the future of the Auditor Treasurer's Department, I envision working together and collaborating with the Finance, Assessors, and Recorder's Office to maintain a seamless flow of information. I also see change for the License Center in regards to their floor space at the Government Center and perhaps expanding payment choices for customers. All these goals and visions are attainable, and I feel very comfortable stepping into this role. I have a very great admiration and respect for the staff and have a great deal to learn from them. I intend to provide leadership and assistance to continue to make any needed changes in the department. Thank you.
Joyce Tolugan.
My name is Joyce Tolugan, and to give you some background as far as my experience with Winona and Winona County, I am a lifelong resident of Winona County. I started my career with Winona County in 1979 when I worked as I worked in dispatch, and then I became the dispatch supervisor. I've also held positions in emergency management, homeland security, household hazardous waste is where I assist, environmental services, the maintenance department, State of Minnesota Extension 4-H, the Recorder's Department, briefly in the License Center. I now work in planning, and I assist in administration. I am extremely diversified with Winona County. I believe in transparency, and I want everyone to know that if I am elected, I will be a working supervisor, not only with the License Center, but the other departmental supervisory skills. We have a very professional staff that has been holding or has been conducting the business of the Auditor Treasurer's Office for a number of years now, and I would bring diversity to the position, and I would welcome anyone to come in and see me. And I also would like to say that I think that our department and that the Auditor Treasurer's Department needs somebody with fresh eyes, somebody that can walk in there, roll their sleeves up, and let's do the job. Thank you.
Thank you. And Joyce, if next time you can get closer to the microphone, okay? Get it again. We want to hear your words.
Okay.
Now, running for Sheriff, Ron Gandrid.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, AAUW, the Women's Resource Center, Winona State University American Democracy Product for having this forum tonight, to give everyone here and the audience a chance to see us and hear our views. So once again, thank you. The thing that I get asked most often is, why do I want to be Winona County Sheriff? And I'm going to steal a line from my daughter. This would be my dream job. I've had 34 years of law enforcement experience. I'm proud of the career I've had. I started out in 1980 with the St. Charles Police Department. I can still remember the day that I got a call from the city administrator offering me the job. You know, I got the phone call and I really couldn't believe it. I remember looking at my mother and my family and my friends, and for a moment I hesitated and thought, what am I going to do? And then I thought, I just went to school for this. This is my career. This is the job that I'm wanting, this is my dream job. This is a career path that I want to take. So of course I jumped on the opportunity. I worked there for 6 years. After 6 years I decided I need a little more of a challenge. I need a little more responsibility. I need a little bit more than I'm getting with a small department, 3-man department. I went to the sheriff's office. I got that there. After 6 years, I was promoted to a lieutenant. Again, I got an opportunity. I took it. 16 years ago, the sheriff was elected. He chose me as his chief deputy. I enjoy the challenge. I'm challenging myself. I enjoy the responsibility. I've taken over the sheriff's office on a limited basis, as it is. And again, this is my dream job. Thank you.
Thank you. And Bill Spitzer?
Thank you very much. My name is Bill Spitzer, and first of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters, the AAUW Women's Resource Center of Winona, and the WSU American Democracy Project for putting on this forum. This election presents the people of Winona County with a chance to define the future of law enforcement. For the past 16 years, we have had a sheriff answering to the people, and my opponent's been answering to one man, the sheriff. Winona County is not lawless, and it's not being overrun with law enforcement issues. My message to the people of Winona County is very simple. They have a better way to get things done. At the last several forums, we've talked about creating a night supervisor. I would wager that most residents of Winona County didn't know that if a deputy encounters a problem, he must call the sheriff or the chief deputy at home in the middle of the night and ask for directions. No one during these forums, including my opponent, opposed having a night supervisor. Which leads me to the obvious question. If it is so clear, then why hasn't it happened? Why in the last 8 years hasn't my opponent asked the sheriff to make what seems a simple decision? We have muddled through waking up supervisors in the middle of the night to get instructions. But we can do things better. As your sheriff, we will do things better. Here's the challenge. We need someone who has experience being responsible to the people, not just one person. As the mayor of St. Charles for the last 10 years, I've worked with the people and for the people. Those people have evaluated me and re-elected me 4 times. Elect me as sheriff, and I will never forget those whom I work for, the people of Winona County. As your sheriff, we can do better. It won't be a matter of luck or good fortune or a decision made half asleep. I will operate a professional law enforcement agency that carries out its mission to protect and to serve.
Thank you for those opening statements. We are now ready for our first audience question, and I will also say if you would like me to repeat the question when it's your turn, please ask. The first question, and we will be starting with Joyce, and this is for everyone. What are your top 3 characteristics in the area of leadership that make you the best candidate for this elected position?
Excuse me, I'm fighting a cold. My characteristics are, number 1, I am very transparent. I bring transparency to the office. I have an open dialogue, not only with the people with the constituents, but also with the staff. I am willing to learn exactly what would be expected of me as their supervisor, but also as the coworker in that department. I am diversified, and I am very well educated, and I would bring leadership into the role as auditor treasurer.
Thank you. Ron Gandred?
Would you repeat the question for me?
Certainly. What are your top 3 characteristics in the area of leadership that make you the best candidate for this elected position?
First off, my experience. 34 years with the department, 28 with the sheriff's, or 34 altogether, 28 with the sheriff's office, 22 as a leader, and I lead by example. I am open. People come into my office all the time. We discuss things. We have good communication back and forth, and I'm a good listener.
Thank you. Bill Spitzer?
I think the top 3 characteristics that I believe I possess that would make a good leader is, first of all, my experience as well. For the last 10 years, I've been the mayor of St. Charles, which is an opportunity that I've had to work with a lot of different organizations, a lot of groups, and that has given me the next characteristic, which is being a good communicator. I think as a leader, you have to make sure that people understand exactly what you're trying to accomplish. So you need to be a very good communicator. And over my years of law enforcement, nearly 30, I've established that characteristic of being a very good communicator. The last thing that I think makes up a good leader is a collaborator, and that is working with other organizations. We need to make sure that we include everybody in this leadership role. Being a collaborator, communicator, and my experience.
Thank you. Sandra?
Okay. I think my top leadership quality is that I do remain calm. The Auditor Treasurer Department is, as well as being the supervisor of the License Center, you do deal with a lot of customer service issues, perhaps some irritated people. I think it's always good to remain calm and clear-headed. I see myself as being a very reasonable person. I do like to listen to both sides of the story before I make a decision. And that also leads into my third leadership quality is I feel I'm very fair, that like I said, I do listen to both sides of the story. I try to make the best decision that will, I guess, affect the fewest people, and that's my answer.
Thank you. Our next question are for our candidates for sheriff. Describe your department to us. What are your goals and objectives, and how will you obtain these goals and objectives? So starting with you, Ron.
The sheriff's office is comprised of 20 sworn law enforcement officers, but also it has the jail and the dispatch center and the records department. Goals, I think that the sheriff and I have built a strong foundation over the last 16 years for me to continue to build on. Technology is huge. We brought in a lot of new technology in the last several years. Again, staffing has been brought up. That's something I would address. And, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
What do I see the sheriff's office looking under my leadership? Basically, community policing, involving the community in a lot of the decisions and a lot of the activities that are going on. Right now, we have a very small force with the sheriff's office, so we need the help of the community. And that's what we're going to build, those relationships and those partnerships and collaborate with other groups and organizations within the community. So I think community policing is going to be one of the key things that would be in our department. One of the other things is crime prevention. We need to make sure that we're focusing on how are we going to prevent some of these crimes before they happen, because that is very important. The other thing is drug prevention. We hear a lot about the youth and how sometimes the youth is having some concerns or problems with drug use. We need to incorporate that more into our department. And then working with other organizations within the community. I think that's very important that we continue that.
Thank you. Our next question are for our candidates for Auditor Treasurer. How will you work to help Winona County balance its budget and live within its means? And Sandra, we'll start with you.
Typically, sometimes some department heads don't have a whole lot of control over the budget, and I would have to say auditor treasurer is one of those. I mean, obviously, the largest cost for any department at Winona County is staffing. So I would say we probably need to watch the overtime. We also maybe need to look at maybe some streamlining to enable people to get their jobs done in an 8-hour time frame rather than having to work overtime. So that is the control I would have to put into place, I guess.
Thank you. Joyce?
Would you repeat the question, please?
Certainly. How will you work to help Winona County balance its budget and live within its means?
I would work, first of all, I do agree with Sandra. The department heads aren't always in charge of keeping the budget, quote-unquote, budget under control. However, what I would do is I would work closely with department heads and with the administration so that we can move forward thinking, so that we can move ahead. I would ask that our employees continue to do the job that they do. They are very professional. They've been doing it for many years. But I would actually research, and if I were elected auditor treasurer, I would look into, if there is a question, why did this happen? Let's get to the bottom of it, and let's move forward.
Thank you. Our next question are for our candidates for sheriff. How do you plan on let me read this. How do you plan on addressing the sheriff's department budget and over budgeting? And we will start with you, Bill.
One of the things that I had an opportunity to do over the last several weeks is to actually look at the sheriff's office budget. And one of the things that kind of alarmed me a little bit was just to see how often the sheriff's budget was over budget. In fact, over the last several years, close to $800,000 over budget. I think one of the main things that you need to do is focus a lot on planning. You need to look at what needs to be accomplished, and you need to make sure that you're staying within those means. Because just like Joyce had said, one of the things that the county has to do is live within its means, and we need to do that as responsible department heads to make sure that we stay within budget. And I think that is just the major thing that we have to do is just to look at what our expenses are and how we can keep a better control over that.
Thank you. The audience asks if all of you will speak louder, so make sure you get into your microphones, please. Our next question is also again for the sheriff. Oh, I'm sorry. I got interrupted.
I can have an opportunity.
Please do. We got another one for you guys too, so there.
Okay. Addressing the sheriff's budget and over budgeting.
Correct.
One thing that everyone needs to keep in mind that there's a lot of things in the budget over especially the last several years, that are beyond our control. The jail is overcrowded. We're sending people out. We did a lot to circumvent that by having an annex in our basement there. We saved the taxpayers in the county a lot of money by doing that, not having to send them out. The budget fluctuates. The payments or the inmates fluctuate. The number of inmates we have has a huge bearing on our budget. Sending them out or keeping them in-house or having other programs is something that we're working on, we have worked on. But the jail is a huge place in our budget. The other thing is overtime. We had 2 people hurt. We had 3 people retire. That affected our budget this year. There's always things like that, but Bill is right. We need to look at it and look at there's places to cut, but that's why we have a budget every year, and that's why we work with the county board.
Thank you. Our next question is also for the sheriff candidates. How will you better organize training procedures to prevent mishaps? And Ron, we will start with you.
Would you repeat it again, please?
Yes. How will you better organize training procedures to prevent mishaps?
Well, the sheriff's office has a lot of training. We're mandated by the state to have training. We get state money to provide training, and there's going to be things that always happen. We can't help it if somebody hits a deer. It's usually an unforeseen thing. Mishaps, yeah, we work with the county on that for the safety commissioner council. But again, we provide a lot of different trainings. The county provides a lot of trainings. We need to make sure the staff goes to those trainings, attends them, and is diligent when they're working.
Thank you.
Well, you know, I think most of us have read the article in the paper, and I think that we see what happens when a training goes wrong. So we have to make sure that we are better prepared. In the incident that I'm referring to, we had an incident where, you know, a couple of a sheriff's office employees was helping the fire department train for a particular event. And that was one of those situations where you really need to know exactly what this training is going to be all about. So I think we need to do a much more diligent looking at all of these different trainings that we're providing with these different organizations. So what we really need to do is we really need to know exactly what the training's being done and how we're doing these trainings. So we need to do a better job at that.
Thank you. This is a question for all of you, and we'll be starting with our auditor candidates first. How would you better the communication with the public? And Sandra, we'll start with you.
I know one area that government in general is lacking in is technology. I mean, we have a lot of people tweeting and Facebooking and you name it, and I'd have to admit I'm probably guilty at being a couple decades behind. Like I said, we do notice that in the License Center, people get a little frustrated that we don't accept credit cards or debit cards. I know our website seems to be constantly under construction, and that's probably, I think, our best current tool that we have in place is trying to upgrade our website to make it, I guess, a little less, what do I want to say, tangled. Once you get in there, sometimes there's no way to get back out. We have a wonderful IT staff, but unfortunately, they are kind of stretched thin also, so like I said, I think we do need to embrace technology more. It's just a matter of, you know, how far and how fast.
Thank you. Joyce?
Would you please repeat
Yes.
the question?
How would you better the communication with the public?
I would actually, I wish the public would consider this an invitation to the office if I am elected. I like to visit with people, and I like to look into their eyes when we discuss something. Coming from the dispatch center and dispatch supervisor, communications is my specialty. I find it much more advantageous to speak with people and look at them so that we have clear, concise communication. And I would while I do agree with the technology, my opinion is that there's a lot left to perception when we deal with technology, as opposed to if the person is either on the telephone with me or they're available, or we can set up a meeting, come in and talk to me. Come in. We will get through it.
Thank you. Ron?
Well, I would continue to do what I've been doing for the last 16 years, and that's have an open door. I give out my business cards. I invite people to call me. I invite people to stop in and see me. Every day I have that. I answer their questions. I listen to their concerns. But also, I attend meetings. Tonight, I was asked to go to the Stockton City Council meeting. Well, obviously, I'm not there. But that's the kind of things that the sheriff and I have done, I would continue to do. And the other thing is, as chief deputy, I've been, for the last 16 years, pretty well set in the office. As a sheriff, I would have the opportunity to be more visible, more out in the public, and get out there and see the people in St. Charles and see the people downtown Winona, instead of sitting in the office.
Thank you. Bill?
One of the things that I think is very important to maintain that communication is utilizing technology, utilizing the Facebook, utilizing the Twitter. I can think of an incident that happened last night with the pedestrian bridge that was hit. One way that we should be able to be looking at that is we should be looking at how can we get that information out fast and how can we get that out to the people. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all those things that we can keep in touch with a vast majority of the population is something that we need to do. But it's not all about technology either. We need to attend meetings. We need to go to township meetings. We need to go to fire department meetings. We need to discover what are some of the needs of those communities. What are those needs of the townships? What are those needs of the fire department? And lastly is we need to go into the communities. The last couple of months I've had an opportunity to go to some neighborhood watch meetings, and there's volumes of information that is gathered there, and that's one of the ways that you can figure out what are some of the problems. We can get a good pulse on what the community is all about.
Thank you. Our next question is for our auditor treasurer candidates. How will you increase the morale with county employees? And Sandra will be starting with you. The question is, how will you increase the morale with county employees?
I mean, right now, I can just speak for myself and a little bit of what's going on at the government center, and there's a lot of cross-training and short staffing, and I think a lot of it just, I think we need to support each other and just realize that we are in a bit of a change with Winona County as a whole with just having an interim administrator. So I think the best thing is to just, keep your chins up, talk to each other, just realize that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and just to keep going and just remind each other that we are here to serve the public, we are here to perform customer service for the taxpayers, and they deserve the very best from us every day.
Thank you. Joyce?
The word morale has been one that has been repeated over the years for those of us that work with Winona County. I have come to believe that morale is similar to our inner happiness. I cannot teach anyone to be happy. I cannot teach them to have a great morale. I believe that if we work together, and I would lead by example, I'm a positive person. We're here to do our job. And to be very honest with you, every single employee with Winona County is under contract the day that they are hired to fulfill their duties and their responsibilities to the best that they possibly can to help the public. That's what we're there for. I would like to kind of steer away from the age-old morale with Winona County. I think it's something that's been mentioned way too often, and I would lead by example.
Thank you. Our next question are for our sheriff candidates. What's the biggest change that you would make if elected sheriff? And we will be starting with Ron. What's the biggest change that you would make if elected sheriff?
A thing that we became involved in a few years ago was ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children, and I sent two people to the investigator school for that. We got a computer. They just haven't had time to really work it, and I think that's something that's very important. Children and them being victimized is something that we need to look into. It's happening in Winona County, it's happening all over, and we do investigate some cases, but we're a little more reactive, and I would like to see the department move forward with more investigations and using the technology and the expertise that the staff has.
Thank you. Bill?
I think the biggest change that would happen in the sheriff's office, if I was elected sheriff, would be to utilize community policing to its exact science or title, and that is going out into the community and partnering with members of the community to try to solve a lot of the crimes that are going on. Everybody in the community has a pulse on what's going on. It's just a matter of getting the trust of law enforcement to solve some of those. I can think of examples out in the east end of the county where just a sitting down and having coffee with several individuals, and once you earn their trust, all of a sudden they start telling you things that are going on. So I think the biggest change is actually doing a lot more community-involved things, crime prevention, educating people on what they can do to protect themselves. We have a very small sheriff's office, so by utilizing the resources within the community, it's going to do a lot more good for our department as well.
Thank you. Our next question is for everyone. What outside organizations are you involved in? And we're going to be starting with Ron Anrud.
Outside,
The question is, what outside organizations are you involved in?
the St. Charles Lions is the organization I'm most involved in. I'm their treasurer, have been for almost 10 years, and I attend all their meetings and their functions. And outside of the job, that's it. The job is, like I said before, it's my passion, and I'm dedicated to the job.
Thank you. Bill?
I think it's very important to be involved in community organizations, because one of the things that does is that earns the trust of a vast amount of people. I'm involved in the St. Charles Lions, as Ron is as well, and that's one of the ways that you can actually build those friendships, build those partnerships. Also, the Sons of the American Legion serve on several different boards. I think it's important to be involved as much as you possibly can in your community, because that is going to develop that tie, develop that trust. Another organization that I'm very proud to be a part of is Project Find, in the diversity. We have a large, diverse population in Winona County, and we need to be as involved as we possibly can with other cultures and other ethnic groups. So being involved in that community, being a part of that community by being serving on those different organizations.
Thank you. Sandra?
Okay. I'm not really part of any formal organization here in Winona County. One thing I've always enjoyed doing, along with my sister, is volunteering. And after our grandfather passed away in 1993, we became meal escorts at St. Anne's. I guess I was looking for a new grandpa, never did find one, but met a lot of fine people at St. Anne's. After we kind of transitioned away from that, we did continue to do bingo on Wednesday nights with the residents there. Actually, this past year, I did begin volunteering at the Salvation Army store for about 2 hours a week. I just kind of tidy up, stock shelves, things like that. And the other fluffy thing I do is I am part of the Cedar Valley Women's Golf League on Thursday nights.
Thank you. Joyce?
As far as organizations are concerned, presently I do not belong to an organization, although I do frequent, for instance, the American Legion or the Veterans or things like that. But the one thing that I do, one of my hobbies, is my small business. It's Aegis Estate Sales, and I assist people in liquidating their estates. As a matter of fact, I have an estate sale that will take place in Wabasha in about 3 weeks. I also work part-time at JCPenney here in Winona, and that has allowed me outreach with people. Both of my part-time positions have allowed me a lot of contact with people. I would take my sons with me when they were younger to my estate sales where they would sort Tupperware in boxes. But now they're older. My oldest is at the University of Wyoming-Laramie, and my youngest is a sophomore at Cotter. However, I very much enjoy work, and that is my hobby.
Thank you. Our next question is for our candidates for sheriff. The Winona County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Is there any new direction you, as sheriff, would like this board to go? I'm trying to read it. So is there, regarding the Winona County Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, is there any new direction you, as sheriff, would like this board to go, or this council to go?
Who's up?
And it is, Bill, is your question.
I think the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, we need to work as closely as we possibly can with this organization, because what this does is this looks for alternatives. We know what the jail space crunch is with the sheriff's office. We know that we have limited jail cells. So what we need to do is we need to partner with organizations like the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council to figure out what are some options, what are some other ways that we can try to take care of our overcrowding in our jails. What are some possible solutions that we can come up with in dealing with individuals that break the law? And I think that if we can, put them on a path of not reoffending, that's going to help us in the long run, because as we all know, or maybe you don't know, it costs us $100 a day to house somebody in our facility. So the more people that we can prevent from going into that facility, the better off it's going to be for our taxpayers.
Thank you. Ron?
Well, I've partnered with CJCC for years. I was one of the original members, act as a delegate for the sheriff. When he doesn't attend the meetings, I do. Usually, we would attend them together. But we make sure the staff attends, the jail administrator and the programmer. And we are involved with it. It's a good program, and as Bill said, it's got a lot of good programs that have come out of it. We've got care, we've got mental health now, advocates in the jail, coming into the jail. We now have a county nurse that comes in. We have a doctor that comes in more than just once or twice a week. So we've worked with them closely, and we need to continue to work with them. Again, it's an issue for the overcrowding, but it's also recidivism. We need to try to eliminate people coming back into the jail.
Thank you. Our next question is for our candidates for Auditor Treasurer. If in the course of your work as Auditor Treasurer, you had concerns about financial practices by others, how would you respond? And this is starting with Joyce.
Considering the makeup of where we work and the hierarchy with whom we work, I would have a conversation with the county administrator at some point, and the personnel director, because they have the laws at which we have to follow when we become suspicious or if something like that would occur. And I wouldn't want to put Winona County in any form of a liability as I would approach this employee or this person handling the finances.
Thank you. Sandra?
One of the things I discovered when I began working a little bit more in the auditor-treasurer area is how actually the Office of the State Auditor has a lot of guidelines and practices that we need to follow. During the course of the county's yearly audit, the Auditor-Treasurer's Office is actually audited, as well as the Finance Department and any other department that the State Auditor chooses. So actually, I would actually be pretty surprised if anybody were going to try to do anything suspect, because we do have a lot of eyes watching us, not only internally but externally. But obviously, if I would feel something is suspect, I guess my first priority would be to alert the county administration team, because they report directly to the board. They need to know what's going on.
Thank you. This is a question for everyone. What will be the benchmarks for accountability in the performance of your duties in the position that you are running for? And we will be starting with Bill.
Can you read it one more time?
Sure. What will be the benchmarks for accountability in the performance of your duties in the position that you are running for?
I think the benchmarks for accountability is going to come with the citizens of Winona County. I think they're going to establish, what that bar is. And as the sheriff, you are accountable to everyone in that county. I think the other benchmark that you're going to have to get to from a standpoint of the sheriff's office is a level of trust. And, how are the community going to trust you? And how are they going to resolve some of the issues that may be going on? So I think that's probably the number one thing that we're going to have to do, is build the trust of the community.
Thank you. Sandra?
Okay. And I'd have to agree with Bill, and as an elected position, I mean, I guess the truth will be, or the proof in the pudding will be, if you run for reelection in 4 years, do you get reelected? The other thing is, I guess, it's, the auditor treasurer is, so revolves around customer service because we're in charge of property taxes, we're in charge of the license center, and there is where you probably could get the most face-to-face contact with the public. And I guess if the public is happy, you can rest assured that you're probably doing your job well. And that would be my benchmark.
Thank you. Joyce?
My benchmark would be proof through the responsibility that I would take as Winona County Auditor Treasurer, and the fact that there would be clear, concise communications, and that I would build the trust with the residents of Winona County. I would be available for them at any point if they want to make, as I've said in the past, if they want to make any appointments. But I really believe that it would be responsibility and transparency that would be the benchmark, so that the citizens feel comfortable coming in and speaking or contacting me.
Thank you. Ron?
Well, obviously, the benchmark is the voters in 4 years, whether or not they would reelect someone. But we have accountability. The county attorney holds us accountable. If we're not doing our job, they're not going to prosecute the cases, or they can't prosecute the cases. And as chief deputy, that's one of the big jobs I have right now, is making sure cases are going over that are ready and are winnable. We're also held accountable by the county board. If they don't think we're doing our job, they can cut the budget, they can cut this out, they can cut that out. Working with the county enabled us to do things that, well, just the last couple of years. We got computers in the cars. That was the first thing always cut out of the budget. They found the money because we worked with them, because I think they felt that the sheriff and I were being accountable.
Thank you. Our next question is for our candidates for sheriff. Do you support requiring regular training of all law enforcement officers in mental health crisis intervention? And this will be starting with Ron.
Do I support it? Yes, I do. It's very important. Most everybody in our jail has some kind of mental health situation. It might not be the reason they're there, but it's a secondary reason. That's why we have somebody coming in and providing mental health evaluations, and that's why we work with community health, getting people the help that they need, and working with them while they're in the jail, but outside the jail. And the first line of involvement here is the deputies on the road, so they need to be trained on how to deal with and how to handle the situations and the people. So yes, I do.
Thank you. Bill?
One of the things that I had the pleasure or the opportunity several years ago, I would say 10 plus years ago, is participate in a program called Crisis Intervention Training, dealing specifically with individuals that are suffering from mental illness and how to deal with those individuals. And at that time, we had a couple of members from the sheriff's office and a couple of members from the police department, meaning one or two. And one of the things that we really need to focus on, because as I was working the street, I noticed that a lot of the calls that we were going on were individuals that were suffering from some sort of mental illness. And we also have several inmates in our facilities that are suffering from mental illness. So this is a problem that's going to continue to develop, and it's going to continue to grow. And what we need to do is we need to make sure every single officer in the department is trained in crisis intervention. We need to make sure that each one of those officers are prepared to deal with this growing concern.
Thank you. Our next question is for our Auditor Treasurer candidates. How will you support transparency in the budget process while working with the commissioners and all department heads? And we will start with Sandra.
Well, once again, as I said, actually, one of the major components of the auditor treasurer's budget is staffing, and it's payroll related. And actually, because I do work so closely with in the finance department, I know that it's actually our personnel staff that sets that budget for all the departments. And I think we just need to communicate together and make sure that they understand, if they're on track with the numbers they're giving us. And then, as being the department head, you really have to work diligently to remain in those guidelines, because like I said, it is probably the biggest part of the county's budget is staffing.
Thank you. Joyce?
Would you please repeat the question?
Certainly. How will you support transparency in the budget process while working with the commissioners and all department heads?
I would work with all the department heads. However, at this point in time, I can't really say if it's personnel, or is it equipment, or is it overtime. What is the driving factor of us? As far as I know right now, we're outside budget. But I would work closely with the board. I would work closely with the department heads. Look at what do we really need? What programs do we need? And what can we eliminate and yet still serve the citizens to the best of our ability? And one of the most important parts of that is staying within a budget and is being transparent. And if people have questions or they have suggestions, I would welcome them as they come in and work with us.
Thank you. Our next question is for everyone. How will you improve communications with employees within your office? And we will start with Joyce.
I would hold staff meetings perhaps once a month. I would also have the open door policy, in that if somebody has something that they want to discuss, please feel free to come in and talk to me. Another thing that I think is extremely important in dealing with staff is if there is something that they need to discuss, we can do that. If it involves another employee, we can do that. While that being said, I always think that the best thing to do is to have open conversation with everyone involved. However, I would also lean on the personnel director, once again, so that we are sure that we are following the rules and the laws that we have to follow as far as employers are concerned.
Thank you. Ron?
Communication with employees, again, I have an open door. The staff comes to me and we communicate frequently and often and at length. I'm, again, a good listener. I find the time, take the time to sit down with them and listen to their concerns, their issues, or their suggestions. I also strongly suggest that the staff goes to their immediate supervisor and comes to me if they need to. It's important, too, to have staff meetings. We currently do have staff meetings, and I would continue with that, and I would maybe even have more staff meetings, as I believe Joyce just said, with each department. The deputies have a meeting quite often. The sheriff and I meet with the nighttime deputies to go over issues. We meet with them, in different places throughout the county. So again, staff meetings would be important, too.
Thank you. Bill?
I think one of the best ways to communicate is through listening. I think that you will accomplish a lot more by listening to your employees, listening to your department heads within your sheriff's office, and acting. That's the other component that sometimes we don't hear a lot about, is once you've heard something, you have to act on that. If you hear that there's a problem or if there's a concern, then you need to actually make an effort to correct that problem. Because if you don't, then everybody becomes very, very frustrated and they don't come in and talk anymore. So the communication lines get broken. So listening is important, but also acting upon what you've heard. Also, make sure that everyone knows what the mission, what the vision, and what the goals are of that department. Because if you know what those are, it's going to be a lot easier to open up those lines of communication by having meetings, by talking with using technology. Right now we have a computer program that has a briefing board. So utilizing technology and also utilizing the good old meetings.
Thank you. And Sandra?
Well, I am not a lover of meetings because typically they drag on for far too long and not a lot gets accomplished at times, but I guess if you have a well-structured meeting with an agenda, keep it short, keep it brief, make sure everybody's on the same page before they go, they can be a wonderful tool. And I think one of the best things that department heads need to do is explain to employees why the meetings are being held, what's happening, what's to be expected, and why changes may be coming down the road. And I'll reiterate, when you have a meeting, stay on track and you'll have a successful meeting. That's the best way to communicate.
Thank you. A question for our sheriff candidates. How will you help prevent the release of juvenile names? And we're starting with Bill.
Well, I think that that's always a concern, and I know that has happened in the past, and I think the easiest way to do that is to utilize the current software that we have. The current software that we have actually allows for us to produce a media report that actually will keep out the juvenile names and prevent us from doing that. So, I think by having clear policies, clear procedures of how we can prevent this from happening, because as we know, that's a violation of the law and also a violation of a person's rights. So we want to make sure we protect those individuals that are protected by the law so we don't release that private data.
Thank you. Ron?
We need to be diligent when we give out information, whether it's to the news or to the general public. Data privacy is something that's obviously something that could get us into a lot of trouble, and we attend training sessions for that, we go to classes for that, and the staff needs to know and understand the importance of being diligent and not releasing information, not just juvenile names, but a lot of information is data private. So, again, we go to trainings. We need to keep up on the laws. We need to keep up on what is releasable and what isn't. And only one small aspect of it is the juvenile names.
Thank you. We are nearing the end of our forum, and we would like to ask each candidate to present a closing remark, and we will be starting with Ron Ganrud.
Again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the other organizations and agencies that are involved with the forum tonight. I think it was a good chance for everyone here in the public to not only see us but hear our views. So in closing, I'd like to say that I'd love to keep serving the citizens of Winona County as a sheriff. Again, law enforcement has been my dream job. I've been doing it for 34 years. I'm committed to the job. I have been committed to the job. I actually feel rejuvenated after having a lot of the staff come to me and ask me if Dave Brand's not going to run, would you run? I have a passion for the job. Other than my family, it's the most important thing to me. Being the sheriff would be just one step closer to the end of my career. That's my ultimate goal, is to end my career with Winona County as Winona County Sheriff. I'm ready for the challenge. I would say that I'm the most qualified candidate, the most experienced candidate.
Thank you. Bill?
I would also like to thank everyone in the audience, the at-home guests, and the league and the other sponsors for having this forum. As I started out at the beginning, I know that we've done things well, but I think we can do it just a little bit better. And we talked a little bit about the budget, and I think that's something that we can really work on, making sure that we're consistent and that we're not over budget all the time. It's a concern because those are not only sheriff's office dollars, but those are ultimately taxpayer dollars, and we need to be a steward of those funds. Leadership experience is very, very important. When selecting our new sheriff, we need to look at what are some of those leadership skills. As the mayor, I've had an opportunity to refine those skills to be an effective and efficient leader.
Thank you. Sandra?
Well, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, Association of University Women, the Women's Resource Center, and the Winona State Democracy Project. Thank you for the opportunity to participate in this forum. Winona County does need a strong and a skilled auditor-treasurer to serve as the checks and balances for the other departments in the county. As the county, we will continue to share resources and we'll work together on a day-to-day basis, but we do need to fill the position with a qualified candidate that'll offer a more concrete segregation of duties. My experience as an accountant and my current duties with Winona County enable me to have a thorough understanding of the existing processes, and it'll allow me to effectively implement any changes where they're needed. And I'd just like to remind everybody that voting is a privilege, so please get out and vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Joyce?
Ladies and gentlemen here and also at home, I would like you to listen to the following words that I'm going to say. Accountability, responsibility, outreach. I want you to know that I am eager, I'm well-rounded, I'm diversified. I've served in 10 different offices in Winona County since 1979. I'm experienced both as a supervisor and as an in-staff person. I will do my very best to represent the Auditor Treasurer's Office. I will conduct the checks and balances. And I also want to say that I'm very happy that the Auditor Treasurer's position is that of an elected one. It gives you, the people, a voice and a responsibility when you put the person that you want and who you should trust into that office. Thank you.
Thank you. We are at the end of our time of this forum. We want to thank all our candidates for an informative event. The League of Women Voters would also like to thank our co-sponsors, AAUW, the Women's Resource Center of Winona, and Winona State University American Democracy Project. We would also like to thank HBC for taping this educational forum. Selected candidate forums will be rebroadcast on the government access channels, Charter Cable Channels 987 and HB Cable Channel 19. Check your local media for dates and times of forum rebroadcasts. We would like to share the dates and times of the upcoming League of Women Voter Candidate Forums. September 11th will be Winona County Commissioners, Districts 1, 2, and 5, and Soil and Water Board, District 4. September 30th will be Winona Area Public School Board, Districts 1 and at large. October 7th will be Winona City Council Wards 2 and Ward 4. October 21st will be the Minnesota Legislature, House Districts 28A and 21B. And on October 22nd, we will have a meet and greet with local unopposed candidates: Winona County Attorney, Winona County Recorder, Soil and Water Board District 1, Winona Area Public School Board District 2, and Winona City Council at large. This event will feature televised candidate statements and time for the public present to directly meet the candidates after the televised portion of the evening. All League of Women Voter General Election forums will be held in Winona City Hall Council chambers throughout September and October. They will all begin at 7 p.m. Watch for local media and publicity for updates on all these opportunities. If you need information on becoming a registered voter, call the Winona County Auditor or the Winona City Clerk. You may also register to vote online at the Minnesota Secretary of State's office until October 14th, 2014. The Minnesota also has registration at the polls. Check the Minnesota Secretary of State's website on the process, and several items of identification must be provided on Election Day to election judges. MNLWV.org is a website you may also use for general voter service information. Please vote. The general election is on November 4th. The polls are open 7 a.m. through 8 p.m. Thank you, and have a great evening.